Okay, so in this video I'm going to show you how to assemble different parts that you've drawn together to make an assembly. So if you've got a side that you've drawn that looks like something like that, and you've got a base that's probably going to look something like that, and I'm just going to show you how we're going to put those two parts together so you end up with something that might start to look a little bit like that. I'm going to show you how to use the mirror component function as well, so that you don't have to assemble the same part twice. You can, once you've assembled it in once, you can use a mirror component to get the same part on the other side of the thing that you've drawn. So just going back to our side file, the first thing we've got to do is start an assembly file. So we're going to go up to here to new, and we're going to select part, and we're going to cancel that. We're going to go to new, and we're going to select assembly. Make sure you select an assembly, not a part, because we're doing an assembly file. So assembly and OK, and then that should bring up a screen that looks like this with the assembly here, and you've got some assembly functions up here. There's a little tick sign here that says begin assembly. We're going to tick that, and the first thing we're going to do is insert our first component. So click on insert component. Now if the components that you want to put into your assembly are haven't come up down here, you can go to browse and you can find them. So I'm going to start off by picking the base of my trebuchet and opening that one, and you just click, and it should, as the first component that you put into your assembly, it should lock that into the viewing area here, so that you can't now move that around. So just to check that it's done that, just click and hold on that part and just check that you can't actually drag it anywhere. If you can't drag it anywhere, that's good. That means it's locked and it's not going to move around when you try and assemble other parts to it. Alright, so then the next thing we're going to do is insert the next component, which is the side. So again, up here to components, we want the side, so click on that and just bring your mouse into the viewing area and just put it, doesn't really matter where you put it roughly about where you want it to go, and just click to place it. And now what we've got to do is mate this component to this component. And when you're mating components, there's generally 3 stages to doing this, and they call them coincidence, and it's to do with the 3 planes in space to make anything be mated successfully to something, and so it's locked in position. There's 3 coincidence that you've got to put on that mate to make it work. So we're going to go up to mate, and it's going to ask us to select the faces of the objects that we want to mate together. Alright, so we're going to, for example, we want this face. As you hover your mouse over the object, you'll see little light orange lines go all the way around the face. That means you're about to select that face. What you don't want to do is pick an edge. So when you hover your mouse over an edge, you'll get a thick orange line on that edge. You want to hover your mouse so that you get the thin orange line around the whole face of that object. So I'm just going to pick that face there, and just for the hell of it, just to show you how this can work, I'm going to pick, now I could just pick that outside face there and mate those two together. I'm going to pick this one here and do that. Now you'll see that has brought, if I just click and hold on your mouse wheel to rotate your object, you can see that that's mated it, but it hasn't, it's actually aligned them, and we didn't want them to align, we wanted them to go face to face. So we're going to come over here to the mate alignment, and we're just going to pick this one here that says anti-aligned, or it's face to face. So it'll actually flip that around, so it's now face to face, and that's the way we want those two to go together. So now if we're happy with that first condition, I know it looks a little bit weird because it's all like wonky, it's not lined up, but that's totally fine. We'll fix that in a minute. So that first coincident is correct. We've now got those two faces mating together, face to face. So we can tick that coincident, and that coincident is done. Now basically what that means is I can click on this thing here and move it anywhere, but it will always stay in line. Wherever I move it, it will have to be that those two faces will have to be sharing the same plane in space. Alright. Okay, so then our next coincident is going to be that we're going to mate this top edge of the slot here. Alright, so we want that face there, and we want to mate that to the top face of the base, and you can see now that lines that up. Alright, so now those will always be aligned, so I'll tick that. Now again, now it can still move, but it will always stay with those two faces aligned and the top of that slot aligned. Alright, so then the last mate that we're going to do is just to put this end of the slot here to be mated face to face with that face there. Alright, so I'm just using my mouse wheel, clicking down and holding to drag things around. That's really important that you do that, because that enables you to pan around and look at things from different angles. But that looks pretty good, so I'm going to tick that. That's my third coincident, and those two are now successfully mated together. So I can't now click on that and drag it, move it anywhere. It's properly lined up and mated with that. So I've now finished doing that mate, so I just tick that to get out of the mate function. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this component and do a mirror of this component on the other side, so I don't have to go through that whole process again. Now to do that, I need a reference plane that I'm going to mirror this component about. So we're going to come up here to reference, and we're going to hit the little down arrow there. Now you can't see this drop down in the video, but I'm going to pick the first thing there, which is plane. So go to reference and then click on plane, and then over here in this little window, it's asking me to pick my first reference for creating that reference plane. And I'm going to just pick this face here, this side of the base, because I'm going to put a reference plane slap bang down the middle of this base to mirror this side around. So it needs to know that I want to mirror a central plane between this face here, and now it's asking me to pick my second reference, which is going to be this face here. And you can see it's automatically assumed that I want a mid plane. We call that a mid plane. It's a plane midway between this plane and this plane. So that is what we want to do. So I'm just going to, just to double check that, I'll check mid plane here, and we'll tick that, and that's created that mid plane there for me. I now want to mirror this side onto the other side of the base. So I'm going to go up here to where it says linear component pattern, click on the little down arrow, and then go to the bottom. You won't be able to see this because it doesn't come up on the video, but click mirror components. It's the last option in that menu. So pick mirror components, and then it's automatically assumed that, well, because that plane was selected already, my mirror plane is already in there, so I don't need to put anything into there because that's it there. So in the components that I want to mirror, I'm just going to click on that component there to highlight that, and it's picked it up there, treb side 1, it's going to mirror that. So then I tick that, and you can see that it puts that component on the other side. So that'll save you some time rather than having to bring another side in and line it up and do all the three mates. It's a quick way of doing things when you've got a symmetrical design that you're putting together there. Alright, so that looks pretty good. So then now I want to put my trebuchet arm, I want to bring my trebuchet arm in that I've drawn and line that up with these holes here. So I'm going to go to insert component again, and my trebuchet arm hasn't shown up here, so I'm going to browse and I'm going to find it in my folder where I've saved it. Treb arm, there it is. Open that up and just click that and just drop it, click and drop it somewhere in the viewing, the drawing area there. And then we're going to mate that trebuchet arm to those holes. So we go to mate again. What do I want to mate? I want to mate that hole there with this, either one of those two holes on the side, and you can see what's happened there. It's lined them up, but it's obviously not in the right position, but that's good where it is there for now. So we'll tick that. That's our first coincident done. And then the second coincident is we want to offset this face here from this face to put the trebuchet arm in the center between the two sides. So we're going to go for our next mating coincident, we're going to pick that face there, and we're going to pick the inside face of that side. We're going to come over here and we're going to go to this little button here, which is distance, and it's going to offset those two faces. Now if I go into my base drawing, I can see that my base, it's 50 to the center line there, so the total width of that base is 100 millimeters. And if I just go back into the assembly that I was just doing, the thickness of the arm here is 6 millimeters, so I can calculate that I want the distance, this face to be away from this face is 47 millimeters. So in the little distance window here, I'm going to type in 47 mil, and I'm going to tick that, and there you go, it's centered that between those two sides. So then I tick that one, and that's pretty much all I needed to do. Okay, so I can now see I can click and drag that, like it'll still move, but it can only move in rotation around those three holes. So those three holes are all lined up and locked together in space. So the last thing to do would be to put a rod or a bolt or something through there that will fix those three things together. I won't show you how to do that on this video, but yeah, it's a fairly, you can actually go and pick a pre-drawn bolt in the SolidWorks library, and you can insert that through those holes and put a nut on the end of it, and that's a pretty quick and easy process, but I won't show you that on this video. Yeah, I'll probably show you that in class. So that one's done, so we can tick that. And then obviously make sure you save that assembly that you've drawn, save it in the same folder that you've saved the part files there that you've put that thing together with. Alright, so have a go at doing an assembly, come back to this video, have a look at the process that I went through. If you follow that process, then you can't really go wrong. Alright, good luck with that.